Last year, I found myself in the strange position of liking the direction Activision was taking Call of Duty in. That direction being that it lacked a single-player campaign, so I didn't need to bother with it. Sadly, they backtracked this year and brought it back. And I do mean they brought it back, all the way back to 2007 by creating this weird amalgamation of reboot and prequel to the Modern Warfare series, which strikes me as a strange course of action to take 1 year after they re-released Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare with a fresh coat of paint and monetization opportunities. I'm not exactly sure what they thought was in need of rebooting. The only things from Modern Warfare that I can recall are the weird mix of Russian and vaguely defined Middle Eastern terrorists as enemies, a special forces Brit with mutton chops, and some hijacked weapons of mass destruction, which is all inside this game. More of a spit shine than a new pair of boots, isn't it?
Our war is not for our fate.
I'm sure Activision believed that by starting the game off with that line, they had skirted the uncomfortable ludonarrative dissidents, and now gamers can play the game and kill untold numbers of Islamist terrorists without it being a cultural critique.
We are Al-Qatala. We are the killers.
Calling yourself the killers isn't helping the image you just tried to paint as freedom fighters trying to kick foreigners out of your country. Activision normally keeps the war crimes and atrocities all to itself in the form of aggressive microtransactions, but this time around they decided to let the player get in on the fun by starting the game in the head of a suicide bomber. Or at least sort of. I guess they felt that might be too controversial, so they put you back in the boots of a good-looking and heroic white dude as soon as it becomes clear you were about to commit an act of terrorism. This is the same series that gave us No Russian, so Call of Duty has now entered its 40-year-old dad phase of trying to impress all of its old friends, but not upset anyone.
General Barkov has sent a new shipment of chlorine gas to his depot, but his mercs are prepping to move the chems into Urzikstan via convoy tonight.
Chlorine gas is bad, but is that really the threat in this game? I can make that in my bathroom right now with bleach and toilet bowl cleaner. It's not even considered very useful in warfare. Risking an international incident with Russia over a few barrels of the stuff doesn't seem worth it. If you're going to use chemical weapons, why not nerve gas? Especially since that was used just a few years ago in the same country this game's fictional country of Urzikstan is modeled after. When you call something a reboot, I sort of expect it to be a fresh take on the gameplay. Maybe it's just me, but I'm having trouble spotting the difference between this Call of Duty and any other Call of Duty. Even the plot is old hat by now. Mission 1. An elite US Special Forces team undertake a mission where something goes wrong and inevitably Russia will blame the US. Mission 2. The US will scramble another Special Forces team on clandestine missions into danger zones. Repeat until credits roll. The insurgents who steal the gas shipment from the Americans after they stole it from the Russians seem surprised that Americans are here. Who else would be bombing a Russian-controlled storage facility in not Syria?
Terrorist attack. Multiple Marines KIA. Gas stolen. We need evac now.
Chlorine gas is the one chemical weapon that is incredibly easy to make on your own, so I can't imagine terrorists would attack a Russian-controlled storage facility to get their hands on it when they can make it themselves. Also, chlorine gas is manufactured in plants all over the world for industrial use. You don't have to go all the way to not Syria to get your hands on it. In fact, why would Russia be secretly manufacturing chlorine gas in not Syria when they have many production plants for the stuff in Russia? And why would the US send in special forces to steal the shipment when you can find the stuff anywhere in the world? This isn't exactly nerve gas.
This operation is now compartmentalized.
What the hell does that mean?
Means you no longer have clearance, Colonel.
Unlike EA's Battlefield, Activision was smart enough to keep the woke signaling to a minimum and put none of it on display during the game's trailers. The game introduces a standard white male military commander who exists only to disregard women and then be put in his place by an empowered white woman. And then said white woman is quickly put in her place by a higher-ranking empowered black woman. It's a bit like the cartoon of a fish eating a smaller fish, only to be eaten by an even bigger fish.
Your fingerprints are all over this, Laswell. Fix it.
Deborah Wilson sure is making a name for herself in games as of late. What was your favorite role? The one where she played a tough-as-nails black lady in Wolfenstein: The New Colossus? A tough-as-nails black lady in Wolfenstein: Youngblood? Here, where she plays a tough-as-nails black lady? Or that upcoming Star Wars game where she appears to play a tough-as-nails black lady?
When can you breathe?
We just did.
The US and the UK are pretty close when it comes to military operations, but not so close that the CIA can call up an SAS member like Price in the middle of a mission to give him a new one.
Terror threat level is now critical. Possible multiple attackers. Bombers or something worse.
Do we have snipers in position?
Negative, Sergeant. Can't unduly alarm the public.
Authorities know there are terrorists in London, and are about to attack and may possess chemical weapons. I think clearing the street is worth a little panic.
Captain Price. Sergeant Garrick.
Price was briefed by Laswell on the gas situation and brought into the team to fix it just a few hours ago. But that's all going down in Urzikstan. If Price is now on that mission, why was he sent to London just in time for this Al-Qatala attack that has nothing to do with the gas, and they didn't even know it was going to go down tonight? It sure ends up working in their favor though. The terrorists were nice enough to download and install a countdown app on the phone for the suicide vest they attached to a civilian, just so the rescuers would know how much time they had before it went off. The timer on the phone said 6 seconds when Kyle checked it, yet it takes 10 seconds for it to go off.
We don't stand a chance in hell with these rules of engagement, Captain. They can tell us where, they can tell us when. Don't tell us how.
I've heard some weak arguments for war crimes in the past, but Kyle sounds more like a poster on a website you can only access with an onion browser. Welcome to Not Syria, otherwise known as Urzikstan.
Alcatala's claiming responsibility.
I guess that one terrorist group that I can't even name on YouTube lest the algorithm demonetize my video, I'll just say my I has a cyst and leave you to combine the words on your own, is a bit too hot, so they go with last season's terrorist group and just jumble the words around.
Meta Kareem. Call me Alex.
I'm listening, Alex.
This is classified.
I feel sorry for the ladies in video games these days, not because they're over-sexualized, but under-sexualized, while plain Janes are now the go-to for character design for females. The same hasn't happened for men. If anything, they've only gotten more ruggedly handsome. The female characters are so out of their league, they would be the one buying boosts on Tinder just to end up depressed when no one swipes them.
Commander, it's time to go.
I'm not the one who wants to keep pointing these cultural issues out, but since the game has no sense of subtlety, it's forcing my hand. Does anyone really believe a rebel army in the Middle East would be commanded by a woman? I'm not saying she couldn't do the job, but there is a lot of cultural stigma that would likely keep her from doing so. While I'm willing to believe you can turn an oil filter into a makeshift suppressor, you can't simply pull it out of a car and screw it onto the barrel of a gun.
We have our ways. No grenades, so we improvise.
No grenades, but you have C4 remote explosives and flying explosive drones. Grenades are cheap compared to those. Also, those explosive drones would have been nice to use on the grounded helicopters Alex was tasked with blowing up with C4. The best mission in the game, in my opinion, is the infiltration in the London home where the terror cell that attacked previously is holed up. And it works because it ditches the Call of Duty bravado and action movie drama for a straightforward sequence that maintains authenticity and a great amount of tension.
We've got a location on the wolf.
The terrorists in the house didn't bother encrypting or destroying the laptop they used to contact the wolf, allowing Price to take one look at the screen and figure they now had his location, and the wolf didn't bother using a VPN, leaving his IP address unhidden and easily tracked. What is a US embassy even doing in a nation that was occupied by Russia 20 years ago? Call of Duty has turned into one of those pulled from the headlines shows. After capturing the wolf in the hospital, they bring him to the US embassy for some reason instead of a secure location like a military base or navy ship. Embassies are not used to hold violent terrorist leaders. This is just a big excuse to relive the actual real storming of a US embassy in Benghazi, which resulted in the death of an ambassador, which also occurs here.
They need 5 minutes to finish up. What can I do to help?
Find weapons. Barricade the doors.
To the extraction team!
Loyals.
Price and Alex are here to collect the wolf, so I can understand him ignoring the staff. But where is the staff's evac? The embassy is under attack and their lives are in danger. These are the kind of sins that can cost you an election. For a game so determined to chase controversy, it shies away from showing the butcher shooting a child.
Mr. Ambassador, can you hear me?
Pressing the talk button on a building's intercom system will not automatically call the ambassador's cell phone.
If they try to escape to the mountains, there is only one road, Tariq al-Maut, the highway of death. The Russians bombed it during the invasion.
Next on our tour of headlines is the Highway of Death, though weirdly they give credit to the Russians instead of the US. Activision has used so many headline stories in this game, the devs must be expecting a whole lot of war to happen between this game and the next to give them more content to copy.
Open the tailgate quickly! I'll cover us!
There was no reason to tell Alex to open the tailgate. The gas would release no matter what after the explosion. This is just so Alex can ID the gas before it goes off.
I stole the gas from the Russians. To help us, only to help us.
Farah's brother Hadir was the person who stole the gas from the Russians. He's been helping Alex in his search for the wolf and the missing gas. Hadir had to know at some point this was going to be discovered. What does playing as Farah as a child add to the story? She already told us her father was killed in the invasion and she and her brother have been fighting Barkov ever since. In the late 90s, Russia was still recovering from massive economic turmoil. This game expects me to believe they launched a massive military operation in the Middle East and maintained it for 20 years. As someone from a nation that has done that, I can tell you it ain't cheap.
Don't flee! It's poison! Hurry, Farah! We're home! Farah! The gas will kill us! Get in here!
Locking yourself inside your home during a gas attack will actually increase the likelihood of dying in it. Homes are not airtight, and once the gas is inside, it can't dissipate. No game has portrayed Russians this badly since Grand Theft Auto 4. This Russian soldier was really fixated on killing him some children. That door wouldn't be locked. The soldier barged in through it when he killed Farah's father. The plan to steal a truck to escape is pretty dumb. Neither of them know how to drive or could even reach the pedals while seeing over the dash.
So you are the little devils that killed my soldiers. Отлично.
Why is that perfect? I would assume since Barkov seemed impressed by the two, he would want to use them, but he just keeps them in prison for years. This is the same guy that just ordered this entire town to be gassed with the survivors being shot.
Hadir went north. He was picked up by AQ fighters in the foothills.
Hold up. Farah, Alex, and Hadir set up an ambush on the highway because it was the only way for the wolf to flee the city for the mountains after he was rescued by the butcher from the US Embassy. How did he get to that hideout in the mountains? His scout force was wiped out by Farah and Alex, and then the Russians launched an attack, and then Hadir poisoned the entire area with gas. The wolf had no opportunity to escape on that road.
Imagery confirms Hadir was in possession of the remaining stolen gas when he made direct contact with Al-Qatala's most brutal enforcer, the Butcher. Surveillance tracked their vehicles to a residential complex in the Akris Mountains, believed to be the Wolf's stronghold.
Why didn't Hadir defect to Al-Qatala after he stole the gas? He just sat on it after he stole it. After finally using the stuff, he joins forces with the Wolf to attack Barkov in Russia. Was there a reason he couldn't have done that before with his sister's army? Of which some were loyal to him since they helped him steal the gas. So far, this game has been based off of Russia's military action in Syria, simulated the US Embassy assault in Libya. Now it puts you inside the raid on Osama bin Laden's compound. Then it goes a step further by including a scene reminiscent of when soldiers found Saddam Hussein hiding in a hole. It's not exactly modern warfare if you're rehashing every major military incident from all the years you weren't making modern warfare games.
Escape. This is the end. Your brother needed help.
He has a
Farah shoots the wolf dead even though he was holding a remote that could have been a dead man switch.
20 seconds.
Cut the wire exactly when I say.
Again with the smartphone app Suicide Vest. This one even comes with a disarming diagram on a nearby computer. There was no reason to risk your lives disarming the bomb. The wolf was dead and he's underground in the mountains. Just let it go off.
Command has officially redesignated Farah's forces.
You want to translate that from bullshit to English?
It means they're on the list.
What list?
Foreign terror organization list.
The devs couldn't have known about the US pulling out of Syria and leaving Turkish allies to fend for themselves, but damn it, the devs probably weren't congratulating themselves on how well it works into their rip from the headlines plotline.
I've ordered my Marines to treat Farah's army as hostiles.
If Command has designated Farah's forces terrorists because of Hadir, why aren't they taking Farah into custody?
I'm going back to Urzikstan, staying with Farah's army.
What you're doing is illegal.
I'm pretty sure everything we do is illegal.
Fazwell and Norris don't arrest Alex on the spot for deserting the army to fight for the now designated terrorist forces. They even point out that it's illegal. Why make a big deal out of it if there's no consequence for it? In another of Farah's flashbacks, this time to 10 years ago, she and her brother are still being held captive by Barkov. I assume this is why he didn't want survivors all those years ago.
How long have you been in solitary?
10 days.
You look sick.
No food or water.
If Farah hasn't had any food or water in 10 days, she wouldn't just be weak, she would be dead. If you're going to have waterboarding in the game, have it be America administrating it. Why does Russia keep getting all the credit for our actions? If it's that simple to get out of those restraints, then why didn't Farah try to escape before now? Nothing like an easily opened giant vent in your dingy prison cell to facilitate an escape. Barkov interrogated Farah over a missing key that Hadir stole and gave to her. Since that key opened a weapons locker in the prison, why not remove all the weapons from that locker just to be safe since they knew the key was missing? Nikolai is the one good Russian in the game used to plaster over all the ugly portrayals of Russians in the game thus far. A running gun battle through the streets of St. Petersburg with the Butcher fails to draw any police or Russian military. I guess all of them are stationed in Urzikstan right now. This game wants all the shock factor of Spec Ops: The Line, but with none of the commentary or personal consequence, which strikes me as a bit ironic, since that game set out to be the antithesis to Call of Duty's America is awesome and so is war message. By the way, this is in no way an endorsement of Spec Ops: The Line. I still despise that game no matter how many dislikes that video I made on it receives.
Russia and the West will go to war and leave our land alone.
The Butcher's plan is to make the US and Russia go to war with each other, believing that will force them to leave Urzikstan alone, disregarding the whole nuclear Armageddon thing that would leave no corner of the world untouched. Why would the US just leave Urzikstan alone since Russia is occupying it? That would make it a hot zone for conflict between the two.
Now let's get Hadir before he kills Barkov.
So they need to get to Hadir before he kills Barkov, but the very next mission will put them all on a mission to kill Barkov.
We're taking you.
Come.
Wait! I'm not your enemy. I know where the gas is made. I have the location.
This is Barkov's chemical factory.
Yes, I'm taking it down. We're still on the same side, Captain.
Not like this.
Then help us. Please, help my sister.
Hadir's plan was to first steal the gas from the Russians, then later use it against the Russians in Urzikstan, join up with Al-Qatala and convince him to take the rest of the gas to Russia and set off an attack there, possibly starting a war between the US and Russia. And while they were doing that, he would lead Al-Qatala terrorists in a raid on Barkov's home so he could find out the location of Barkov's gas factory and destroy it. And Hadir claims he's still on their side despite what might have happened.
With your help,
we can finish what he started.
This all started after a botched mission to steal the gas in Urzikstan, which heightened tensions between the US and Russia. How is destroying a Russian gas plant in Georgia and killing a Russian general in an unsanctioned mission using Farah's army, which is considered a terrorist group by both countries, going to smooth things over? Even using Farah and her forces won't cover up that there was a US tank and drones used in the assault.
Detonator's fucked.
It's dead. I'll go in there.
And do what?
Ignite the furnace.
With the detonator broken, one of them has to manually detonate the C4 to destroy the gas factory. Why not just download the countdown app all the terrorists were using and detonate the C4 with that?
I've had an assignment my whole life. This is what I believe in. Give me the order.
Alex has been sent to fight in conflicts all over the world, but this incredibly average rebel war in Urzikstan has him so enthralled he all but begs Farah to let him die for the cause. I was hoping for something other than a traditional press X to win game final showdown, but I hardly cared about Barkov anyway.
Mother Russia would approve.
Nikolai was somehow flying the chopper Barkov was escaping on. Why would he even lift off not knowing if Farah was on board to kill Barkov? And why didn't he just do the deed himself?
What are you calling this task force?
141.
Sequel baiting, like this series even needs a hint at it.